Are here in the Little Atiri Forest. The Little Atiri Forest is home to a lot of brush and trees. That makes it a great hiding spot for animals that use camouflage to their advantage. As a matter of fact, if you look on the right-hand side of the truck over there, you can see an okapi. Now, okapi are very recognizable because of those stripes all over their legs. Does somebody want to tell me what animal the okapi is related to? Zebra? You might think that it's related to the zebra because of all of those stripes, but it's actually the closest living relative to the giraffe. Compared it back there. Now, you might not necessarily see the connection right there, but take a look at their heads. It might be a little bit hard to see behind that tree right now, and if you want to get a better view, you can spot it up on the animal spotting guide above your heads. But those heads are almost the same exact shape as a giraffe's head. That's a pretty good indication that they are in fact related. Now, up here on top of the hill on the right-hand side, you can see this grayish-brown antelope. It's known as a greater kudu. Greater kudu have those massive ears on the tops of their heads that allow them to listen out for any sort of sounds. They can actually turn those ears to face any direction they need to, and that means that if they want it, they can actually pinpoint any sound and where it was coming from. Take a look here over the watering hole on the left-hand side, though. You can actually see a black rhino over there. Now, black rhinos are some of the larger animals out here, weighing in at about 3,000 pounds each. Unfortunately, they are very heavily poached for their horns. See, many people believe that those horns serve medicinal purposes. In reality, they're actually made out of keratin. And keratin is the same material that makes up your hair and fingernails. But because of all of the poaching that's been going on, though, there's less than 5,000 black rhinos left in the world today. You can see on the left-hand side there, we just passed by another greater kudu. A little bit further up here, you can also see this more rusty brown antelope. That's known as a bongo. Bongos are also known as the ghosts of the forest, and that's because they are very rare sights to see in the wild. They do a wonderful job of blending into their surroundings. Now, while other animals might be starting to call it a day and starting to go to sleep at this time, the animals here in the forest actually become more active. And that's because during the day that camouflage blends them in pretty well, but at nighttime, all of that darkness conceals them even further. That means that at night they can forage for food without having to worry about any predators catching them. Now, though, we are coming up to the Safi River. The Safi River is a great place to keep a lookout for a lot of animals that prefer to spend their time in and around water. Much like humans jumping into a cool pool or ocean on a hot day, these animals will generally like to stay inside the water to stay as cool as possible. As a matter of fact, take a look here on the left-hand side. You can see some hippopotami in the water to the left. It actually looks to be an entire bloat of hippopotami, which is the name for a group of these animals. It's very fitting considering they can actually weigh up to 5,500 pounds. Now, they'll hold their breath for about 8 minutes at a time. We do need everybody to, for a frame of reference, 9 feet wide is about how wide that canopy above your head is. Now, as we come over this nice old bridge, we're going to take it nice and slow, or pulley. But take a look on the left-hand side. Over there, you can actually see some Nile crocodile. Now, Nile crocodiles are the largest of the crocodilian species, growing to be about 20 feet long and weighing up to 500 pounds. Now, in order to keep up with that massive size, the animals will actually be found to consume up to half of their body weight in food in a single meal. That means in one sitting, a crocodile will consume about 250 pounds worth of meat. That meal only comes about once a week, though, and in fact, something you might not necessarily expect about the animals is that when the food is more scarce, they're capable of surviving months at a time without eating anything at all. It's a far cry from the vicious nature they're generally said to have. Beautiful it truly is. Now, this complex ecosystem is very well maintained by all of the animals who call it home. In fact, each one of them have a very important role to play. It all begins with the elephants. They act as the sort of bulldozers for the savanna, knocking over lots of the large trees to get the leaves at the top. That's ending up with having a lot of the large trees removed, and all of this open area is now appearing for the grasses to grow in. Once the grasses have started to grow, it's up to all of the cattle and antelope that are out here to graze on all of the grasses and ensure it doesn't get too low. They're running at up to 60 miles an hour. That makes them amongst the fastest land mammals on Earth. Now here on the left-hand side is a den. And these den are pretty good places to keep a lookout for some of the predators that call the savannah home. They like to sleep inside the den as it protects them from sun, rain, or just about any of the inclement weather that might be passing by. As a matter of fact, if you look on top of the den, you can see a spotted hyena up there. Now, spotted hyena aren't exactly the scavengers they've been made out to be by movies. In fact, they're some of the most successful hunters anywhere in the world. They hunt together in packs, and those packs are what's known as matriarchal societies. That's a very long name, but it basically means that they're led by the females of the group. As a matter of fact, the lowest ranking female still outranks the highest ranking male. Now, passing by on either side of the truck here are these dirt towers you see. There's one here on the right side and one coming up on the left. Now, those are actually termite mounds. Termite mounds are made up of a mixture of soil, saliva, and dung. They'll harden out in the Savannah sun to become as hard as concrete. That makes it be a great scratching post for a lot of the giraffe out here, as it gets a lot of the harder to reach areas on their backs and necks. It's also a great lookout post for some of the smaller animals to jump up on top of and get a better perspective on the area. Now on the right hand side there you can see a Maasai giraffe munching away on some leaves over there. A little bit further along you can actually see those beautiful Ankole cattle. Ankole cattle are also known as Watusi cattle after the Watusi people who found them. Unlike other domestic cattle, they're not actually used for their meats. Instead, they're used as a symbol of wealth in many places. It generally goes that the more of them you have on your land, the more well off you are. Now here on the right hand side you can see some wildebeest. Wildebeest are known for gathering in herds of up to 1.5 million animals at a time. In order to keep up with those herds, newborns will be able to start running just 15 minutes after birth. Vantage point, and therefore have the best odds of spotting any danger first. In fact, you're getting a pretty up-close view of some giraffe here on the left-hand side. Now this is known as a tower of giraffe. It's what you call a group of these animals together. Now they will stand 20 feet tall once fully grown. They do get a very big kickstart right from birth, considering they start out life standing 6 feet tall. They're also welcomed into the world by a 6-foot drop straight onto the ground.
Wow.
It does serve a very important purpose for the animals though, as the impact on the ground will actually compress their lungs and start their first breath for them. Now you might notice that a lot of these giraffe are munching away on food. That's not at all unexpected for the animals, considering that they actually will spend up to 22 hours of their day eating. That doesn't really leave too much time for much else, but they don't really need all that much time for anything else in their day. Something like sleeping, for instance, really only accounts for about 30 minutes of a giraffe's day. That's mostly broken up into minute or two long micronaps, as they're known. Because of how long their legs are, they oftentimes will take those naps standing up, similar to horses. Sometimes it's even possible for them to start falling asleep with their eyes open. Now on either side of the truck here, you're getting a pretty nice view of some more of those baobab trees. In fact, these ones look quite a bit older than the one we saw before. They can grow to be thousands of years old, and that's how they grow to be as large as the ones you see. They are mostly hollow inside, and as I said before, they are filled then, instead, with water. These animals are known as Patterson's eland. Patterson's eland are some of the largest antelope in the world. The males will stand 6 feet tall just at the shoulders alone. They're fairly athletic animals too. In fact, these massive antelope can actually jump about 6 to 8 feet straight off the ground. The more reddish colored one is the female. So, very fortunate circumstances that you managed to join us here today. Now here on the left-hand side of the truck, you can see an island covered in greater flamingo. Now, greater flamingo are the largest of the flamingo species and the lightest in that pink color that they're known for. Does anybody know what you call a group of flamingos together?
Flamboyance.
That's absolutely correct. Recognize that. Ooh, actually, hold that thought. If you look out there, you can see an African elephant.
Yeah.
Elephants are some of the largest animals in the world. They're very recognizable from those ivory tusks on either side of their face, as well as that massive prehensile trunk in between them. Now, does anybody want to take a guess as to how many muscles you can find inside one of those trunks? No worries. I would be a little bit hesitant to guess that too. The actual number, believe it or not, is over 100,000. 100,000 muscles just inside the trunk alone. And that's what really enables them to move them pretty much any way they need to. Now, one really interesting thing about elephants is that they'll actually begin to treat their young very much in the same way that humans treat their young. That is, in the sense that they actually will give them curfews. During the day, they're allowed to go off and socialize with other animals, but at nighttime, the younger elephants are absolutely required to come back to their mothers to ensure their safety. Now, here on the left-hand side of the trunk, we are circling around a mud pit. These mud pits are great resources for animals with more sensitive skin. Oftentimes, they'll be found rolling around inside the mud. It acts as a natural sunscreen for the animals, making sure that they don't get too burnt when spending long hours of the day outside. As a matter of fact, it looks like up ahead of the truck you're going to get a view of one of those animals that uses the mud to their advantage. These are actually white rhinos. Now, white rhinos can weigh up to 5,000 pounds each. Even with that immense size, they're still capable of running at up to 35 miles an hour. That's why a group of them together is known as a crash. Now, if you look out on the left side, you can actually see on that shady hill, there are some cheetahs walking around up there. Once again, we do need all flash photography off, please. Thank you so much. Now, cheetahs are the fastest land mammals on Earth. They're capable of going from a standstill to running at 60 miles an hour in under 3 seconds. They can't hold that speed for very long, though, as they're mostly sprinters as opposed to distance runners. After a few hundred yards, they'll have to slow down in order to catch their breath. At full speed, though, a cheetah has been known to reach 74 miles an hour. To give you an idea of just how fast that is, that means at full speed, a cheetah will be able to run the entire length of a football field in just 3 seconds. You can see another cheetah over here walking around. Now, the rhinos that are still walking kind of beside the truck over there, they can't exactly see that well. In fact, cheetahs can only really, white rhinos can only see about 10 feet clearly in front of them. From 100 feet away, they can't actually even detect a human standing still. Be spooked into ending up sort of, what's the word? Running at things. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, on the left-hand side there on the copy, you can see 2 lions. Lions are mostly nocturnal animals. That means they're most active at night. As a matter of fact, they'll be found sleeping for about 20 hours of their day. And that's because during the day, their eyesight is about the same as a human's, but at nighttime, it gets to be around 6 times better.
On top of her and was like, lay down.
A little bit closer to the truck over here, you can actually see a waterbuck. Now, waterbuck is the name for that shaggy antelope up there. Like their name suggests, they do spend a lot of time in and around the water. They actually have an oily coating on their skin that prevents them from getting wet. That does have a very unpleasant smell to that oil, though, so we like to keep our distance from the animals. As it turns out, so do predators. Similar to humans, they don't actually like eating things that don't exactly smell appealing to them. Now, up ahead of us, we're seeing another white rhino. Actually, they get their name from the Afrikaans word vite. It really means walk. They're very, very long and flat, very well adapted to grazing on grasses. Now, closer to the front of the truck over there, you can see some ostrich eggs on the ground, on the right-hand side. Ostrich eggs are the largest eggs in the world, weighing in at about 3 pounds each. For a frame of reference, one ostrich egg is about the same size as 24 chicken eggs. And if you look way out there, those brown and white antelope that we're walking over there are known as bonzabon.